Hi, everyone. This is Nathan Weems, the Apprentice Nutrition Detective. Today is September 1st, 2025. It's Labor Day, and I am recording a health update video. Haven't done that in a while, and because I didn't really have anything, I would say, worth reporting. Um, but for those of you who follow me on X or are part of the Love Your Liver program, you may know that a couple of months ago, about 9 weeks ago, actually, decided it was time to make a change. So, um, even though I see clients as part of the Love Your Liver program and talk to people about, um, eating in a more healthy way and how to reduce your toxic load. I hadn't really been practicing what I was preaching. I was taking supplements and doing all that stuff, but my eating was pretty poor. I was eating a lot of junk food and just a lot of crap. So what I finally realized was that I was really sensitive to carbohydrates in the sense that even when I was eating good carbohydrates, things like beans and rice and oats and whole grains with lots of soluble fiber, that tended to make me crave the bad carbs. Um, you know, the fast food and chips and sugar and candy and those kind of things. So I decided that the best way to solve the problem was to stop eating carbs for a while. So I decided that I would basically go carnivore and uh, just eat animal products. And um, so for those of you who are familiar with the Love Your Liver program, this is not a typical recommendation. We want you to eat carbs. We want you to have a kind of a balanced diet between. Obviously, we want it to be more protein or meat heavy, but we want you to eat. We recommend that people eat carbs. But in my particular case, it was causing more problems than it was solving. So I decided I would go ahead and just make the transition. Now, the the general concern that we have about all muscle meat carnivore, and that's the route I'm going, not the nose to tail where I'm eating liver and all that other crap. No, it's a horrible idea, and we don't want anybody to go that way. But we do have people on the program who are successful doing all muscle meat carnivore with one important distinction, which is they do some sort of fiber supplement, soluble fiber supplement. And the reason for that is because one of the most important ways and one of the primary ways that your body gets rid of toxins is through um, pooping bile out. So the way the process works, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is your liver is kind of the toxic waste processing plant or the waste processing plant of your body. It filters your blood and um, and then stores or filters out toxins. And then either stores them, processes them, and gets rid of them, or actually stores them if it's more than it's able to handle at that moment. One of the primary ways that the liver gets rid of toxins is through bile. Now, bile has several functions. It helps with digestion. It helps to digest primarily fats, uh, but it also is a um, kind of the body's toxic waste, and bile can be very, very toxic. So your body, your liver dumps bile into the small intestine. Um, the enzymes that break down fats will do that. That those fats will get absorbed, and then the toxic part of the toxic bile um, will bind to soluble fiber when it's present. And so that's why we want people to eat foods that are high in soluble fiber, carbohydrates that are high in soluble fiber, because it binds to the bile. And then instead of the bile getting recirculated through the hepatic portal vein, it will get pooped out. So it's the reason why, that's the waste of your body. And it's made up primarily of bile, as well as other undigested foods and other kind of waste products. But bile is one of the primary parts of that poop. So the more bile that's bound to soluble fiber or things like activated charcoal, the more toxins that get pooped out rather than recirculated. The problem um, with carnivore diets, all muscle meat carnivore diets, for example, is that there is no source of soluble fiber. And that's the main concern that we have about it, or people that are on it. So by adding a fiber supplement, or adding some source of soluble fiber, it allows more of those toxins to get moved out of your body rather than just recirculated. And a lot of times, if all the bile gets recirculated, or most of the bile gets recirculated, it becomes more and more concentrated and thus more and more toxic. So, um, but we have people in the program who, are eating only meat, but are also taking fiber supplements, or, doing other things to help get the bile out of the body rather than recirculated, and are pretty successful at it. Back in 2017, when low carb was just really starting to become a thing, and I found out about that. I went that route for about 6 months and lost about 50 pounds in the process. But of course, as soon as I went back to eating the way I was eating, it all came back, and now I understand that generally the low carb approach is not a good choice, because in my case, I was eating lots of dairy, lots of eggs, which of course are very high in vitamin A, which means my toxic load was going up even though my weight was going down. So what I chose to do, or what I've decided to do, is to um, do this in what I know now to be a more healthy way. Um, One of the big advantages to the all muscle meat carnivore diet is that, particularly if you're eating primarily or exclusively red meat, it's now the truth is all meats, all muscle meats, particularly red meat, poultry, chicken, and turkey, um, are very low in toxins, because the body doesn't store toxins in muscle tissue. It stores it in fat, stores it in skin, stores it in other places like that. But generally speaking, um, muscle tissue doesn't really have a whole lot of toxins in it. So particularly with things like beef, particularly if you're getting grass-fed, grass-finished, or organic, um, you have very low levels of toxins, very low levels of vitamin A, very low levels of copper. Um, Pork, unfortunately, tends to have more vitamin A in it. So the one we don't recommend as much. Um, I am, I'm not being as strict as I could be, um, just because I want to make sure that I stay on track. So I do eat pork occasionally, even though I know it's not the best choice for me. I do sometimes still eat kind of processed sausage and stuff like that. But generally speaking, I'm doing much better. My toxic load has dropped, or my toxic intake has dropped considerably since I started doing this a couple of months ago. And as a result, I have lost 15 pounds um, and 4 inches off of my stomach. So what I measure is my stomach at the belly button, so my umbilicus. And the reason that I do that is because I have what's kind of known as an apple shape, or think about, guys with beer bellies. My arms and legs don't have a whole lot of fat on them. They're sort of normal size. My torso is kind of normal size, but I got this big belly that sticks out front. Um, this is an indication of primarily visceral fat. So fat that tends to settle around organs or in the omentum, which is basically kind of a sheet of fat that goes over the abdomen, um, under the skin, that acts as protection and also insulation. So the three basic functions of fat: insulation, to keep your body warm, energy storage. One molecule of fat is, or excuse me, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories or kilocalories, depending on how you know how picky you want to be, um, versus versus carbohydrates, which are, I believe, 4 calories per gram, and protein, which is 6, or they're both 6. I don't remember, but the point being that fat is more energy dense. It's got more calories per gram. So our body stores energy, but it also stores toxins in fat cells. So, and for me, being what we in the Love Your Liver program call an overtype, my body is really good at storing toxins in fat cells. So when I become more toxic, I tend to gain weight, gain fat, because that's where the toxins are getting stored, is in the fat cells. So the fact that I've lost 4 inches off my stomach means that I am losing fat, which means that the fat cells are mobilizing the toxins in my body, in the fat cells, stored in the fat cells. And then the fat cells are shrinking. So I'm losing it where it's supposed to be lost. Not Don't seem to be losing muscle mass. Um, and I actually had somebody comment, I've had a couple of people comment that they've noticed I've started to lose weight. I actually had a buddy a couple of days ago tell me I looked younger, which was cool to hear. But the the point of this is I wanted to talk about, one, about making the decision to make a change, because I think that's kind of important. I think this video is probably going to end up being a little longer than mine normally are, and I will get to my test results and go over all that stuff as well. But um, I'm hoping that me talking about my decision making process and how I came to this will be helpful for some of you. So, um, we all have our struggles. We all have things uh, that are more difficult for us than other things. And in my case, food's kind of always been an issue. I grew up in a household where we loved food. Food was entertainment. Um, I grew up in Central California, and my mom and stepdad and my brother and I would take trips, would actually get on the train and go up to San Francisco on weekends occasionally, and just spend the weekend in San Francisco as kind of a short vacation. But food was always sort of the main attraction. We'd go to Fisherman's Wharf and have shrimp cocktails. We'd go to a place called Bodine Bakery, which is, they're world famous for their sourdough bread. We'd get sandwiches and bread. We'd go to, an Italian restaurant called Little Joe's. We'd go to, we go to Chinatown and have Chinese food at a place called the Pot Sticker. So, I mean, so food was entertainment for me growing up. And, um, food has always been sort of comforting, and I worked in the restaurant industry for a long time. So I'm very familiar with food. I'm very comfortable with food, and so it's always been a challenge for me uh, to not kind of go overboard with it. And exercise is not something that I I naturally enjoy. Um, there have been times where I've been very physically active, very physically fit. When I was in the army, I was in the infantry, so I had to be, running 5 or 7 miles a day, all that stuff, and was in the best shape of my life and felt great. But um, when I get depressed, I tend to eat. So, or when I get stressed, I tend to eat. So, and what I discovered was that I was using the excuse of, oh, beans and rice and carbs and those kind of things are healthy. As long as I don't eat a lot of vitamin A, then I'm good. But what it ended up being kind of a slippery slope for me, so that at the beginning I was eating in the program, eating along with the program and starting to feel better, and things are going well. But eventually, as things got a little more stressful at work and those kind of things, I tended to sort of take the easy way out and would go get fast food and those kind of things. And I was able to justify it, and that, oh, well, it's still, yeah, it's not great, but it's still kind of okay. It wasn't, but I was justifying it, um, making excuses. And eventually, after a couple of years of that, the cognitive dissonance between what I knew to be the correct thing to do and what I was constantly telling other people was the correct thing to do and what I was actually doing, just got to the point where it was too much to tolerate. So, at the end of July, I stepped on the scale for the first time in several months, because I didn't want to know, but it was time to find out. And I realized that I was at the highest weight that I had been in my life. I was 278.6 pounds. Um, I could see it. I knew it was happening, and just um, hadn't reached a point where it was intolerable enough for me to do what I needed to do to fix it, until that point. And then at that point, I was like, okay, time to make a change. So I did, and it's been going pretty well since then. Um, haven't really fallen off the wagon. Hadn't really had much in the way of cheat days. I did get some chicken wings a couple of times. Went to Wingstop. So, you know, hot wings with lots of pepper sauce, which of course has lots of vitamin A, and blue cheese dressing, which of course also has lots of vitamin A. So I haven't been as strict as I probably could have been, but I'm doing what I need to do to stay on track, which means not not sweating or making some concessions to not reaching a point where I'm so bored that I have a pizza or something. So um, I'm staying on track. So let's talk a little bit what um, about my daily regimen, what I'm doing in terms of uh, supplements and that kind of stuff. I'll talk a little bit about what I'm eating. Um, I mean, it's pretty straightforward in terms of food. I'm trying to stick with beef. Fortunately, living where I live, we have access to really good quality beef. We actually just bought half a beef from a local farmer just a few weeks ago. Grass fed, grass finished, organic, really good quality stuff. So, um, eating ground beef. Actually, I found that I prefer whole cuts to ground beef. I tend to um, like those better. So, um, you know, steaks on weekends, not necessarily ribeyes or New Yorks, but top sirloin steaks, which are a great choice. They're not as expensive. They're also not as fatty. Uh, Things like round steak, um, London broil, tri-tip. Um, I have access to a whole bunch of different cuts, so I'm doing my best to use those as a way to continue to eat primarily beef, but also have some variety in terms of texture and kind of flavor profiles and those sorts of things. One thing that I have been doing is I do eat some cheese. It's the only dairy that I eat, and I'm trying to treat it, or I'm treating it as a supplement rather than a food. And what I mean by that is that, for those of you who haven't been following Dr. Smith, um, there's been some a fair amount of talk recently about the subject of calcium and potential calcium deficiencies in Love Your Liver, people in the Love Your Liver program, and how that could be an issue. So, Dr. Smith did a great live stream on calcium several weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's so I decided that how I would handle that so that I'm not running low on calcium is to eat small amounts of cheese, even though I know they're high in vitamin A and they have a bunch of other, they're not really good for me. Um, the benefit of the calcium at this point outweighs the other downsides of cheese. So that's the choice that I've decided to make. That's the balance that I've decided to strike. So for other people in the Love Your Liver program, there are lots of sort of Love Your Liver friendly options, like white beans, figs, oats actually have a fair amount of calcium in them. So there are some things that are Love Your Liver friendly that are also excellent sources of calcium. So if you can do those, please do those. But you know, for me, um, cheese is the best kind of choice at this point, or the best trade-off, I should say. So I'm doing small amounts of cheese, usually just a couple of ounces of cheese a day. I but the other thing, and when we get to my hair test, you'll see that my calcium is not, I mean, I'm not low on calcium by any means. My magnesium's good, which means that calcium's more likely getting to where it needs to be. But one of the things that I've talked to a lot of clients about over the last couple of months since the calcium thing came up, and have looked at, is that the people that we're concerned about in terms of calcium deficiencies are people that tend to have been part of the program for a while, who have been eating very low vitamin A, which also tends to be low calcium. So the way that I look at it is that these people have earned a calcium deficiency, um, which is not necessarily a good thing. But the point is that because they've earned their lower vitamin A diet, because they've been working on their low vitamin A diet, unfortunately, a calcium deficiency came along with that. So we're working with those people to try to address those calcium deficiencies or potential calcium deficiencies. But because I haven't been eating low vitamin A, because I've still been eating dairy, because I've been doing those other things, I've actually been taking in a fair amount of calcium. So I'm not concerned that I'm calcium deficient at this point, but I'm continuing to eat, kind of the lower end of the recommended amount, which is about 500 milligrams a day. So I'm eating somewhere probably between 2 and 500 milligrams of calcium a day, eating, not supplementing, eating, um, because I haven't earned a calcium deficiency yet. So I don't have to work as hard to try to prevent that or to counteract that. So that's what I'm doing in terms of food. Um, like I said, pretty much everything else I eat is meat. Um, I'm German. My family's German, so sausages are big, and I love sausages. So I eat sausage from time to time, even the pork stuff. I try to be as careful as I can about it, but again, the trade-off in my mind is worth it. So the thing is, I prefer you didn't use me as an example, other than maybe some inspiration that I can make a change to. But we all have to make the most educated decisions that we can make, even if it's not following the program exactly as written. It doesn't work the same for everybody because everybody's different. So the point being that the changes that I've made have actually made a big difference. So I'm doing this as a Zoom meeting because I am not so great at video production. So I'm gonna just do it this way because it's the way I know to get all the information. So um, actually, let me do this. Okay, so how it started. So June 29th, 2025, 278.6 pounds. My abdomen was 52 inches. And that's circumference around my body at the belly button. I had very little energy by the end of the day. I'd come home from my regular day job, basically eat something, sit on the couch, and just vegetate because I didn't have any energy for almost anything else. I wasn't really exercising. I was still training, doing my martial arts training a couple of times a week, but that was the only exercise that I was getting. Um, on weekends, so I have my regular day job Monday through Thursday. On Fridays and Saturdays, I see clients for Dr. Smith, and Love Your Liver members. Which, if you haven't joined, please come and see us. If you are a Love Your Liver member and you haven't done a consult, it's really helpful. So consider doing that as well. But so I did that Fridays and Saturdays. So my only actual day off is Sunday. And usually by the time I finished my last client on Saturday, I was exhausted. I barely had energy to get whatever, you know, chores around the house done that I needed to get done. But there wasn't any extra energy. And usually on Sundays, other than laundry, folding laundry, which is one of my weekly chores, um, I did very little of anything. I would, finish my last client, go in the house, sit on the couch, and usually fall asleep. Um, so, how it's going? So, as of today, 263.6 pounds. This was actually my weight last week. I haven't really gained or lost. Uh, so that's 15 pounds down from when this started. My abdomen is 48 inches, so I've lost 4 inches off my stomach. I've got a lot more energy. I can do stuff, got a honeydew list. So I've actually been able to do some of that stuff. And generally speaking, I'm feeling better. I got more energy at work. I got more energy at home. Got more energy with my wife, which is wonderful for both of us. So things are definitely moving in the right direction. And I'm really excited to see where this is going. I didn't put on here what my goals are. Basically, my goal is to get down around 200 pounds. So, or get under 200 pounds, which would mean losing 80 pounds. I've been averaging about a pound to a pound and a half a week. So, this is probably going to take a year at least, possibly longer. But as we love to say, as Dr. Smith loves to say, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm all in for making this happen. So I'm already starting to see benefit. I'm already starting to see improvement, and it's really encouraging for me to continue forward. So I'm very happy that you're watching this video and you're on this journey with me, and it's going to be a fun ride. Okay, so in terms of exercise, like I mentioned, I had been training, going to class, martial arts class twice a week. So between 2 to 4 hours a week of training. When I started, that was all I was doing. And I didn't want to start anything else until I felt like I had the energy to do it. So for the first month, I didn't do any additional exercise. Starting about the beginning of August, end of July, beginning of August, I started doing hill sprints. So my driveway at my house is approximately 50 meters long and is about a 10 to 15% grade. So not real steep, but it's got enough that it's noticeable. Got enough of a grade that it's noticeable. And can sometimes be a pain if it's snowy to try to get up it. And I'm doing 8 reps. So running up, walking back down, running up, walking back down. My goal is to get to 9 reps. And that's been working pretty well. So unfortunately, a couple of days ago, when I was running sprints, I stepped wrong because it's a gravel driveway. I live in the country, so it's a dirt and gravel driveway, and I stepped wrong and I tweaked my left calf. So I had to cut my sprint short. So instead, I switched to kettlebell swings. I've used kettlebells in the past and I really like them. And the truth is, I'm not really focused on building strength right now. I've actually got a seminar. We've got a martial arts seminar coming up in a couple of weeks. My instructor's teacher is coming in from Hawaii, so I've been working on building up my cardiovascular endurance so that I can, get tossed around by my instructor's instructor. Um, so I've been working more on cardiovascular rather than strength training. So for the kettlebell swings, I'm using a 30-pound kettlebell, and I did 100. I've been doing 100 reps. I've done that the last couple of days. I tried to do sprints this morning, did one, my calf twinged again. So I'm like, all right, and then need to lay off. So did the kettlebell swings again. Um, my goal is to continue to do hill sprints. I mean, they're really good for me. I really like them. Um, we'll see what it's like when it's snowy. Got a couple months till that happens. So we'll see how that goes. But that's my regimen at this point. My goal is to add more as I um, as I become a little more fit, as I lose more weight. My suspicion is I will want to do more, so I will. But until I really want to do more, I'm not going to do more. I'm not going to push myself and hope, and possibly in the process hurt myself. So I'm just going to stick with what I got. So daily regimen in the mornings, do 6 99 milligram potassium gluconate capsules along with 500 milligrams of nicotinic acid. I was doing 1,000 for a while, but since I've been doing this, 1,000 is just a little too much. And I start noticing that I'm dumping a little too much bile, so I've backed off to 500, and that seems to be working well for me. Do about 20 sprays, large sprays of alcohol. I got one of the trigger sprayers rather than the pump kind. So sun fiber, this is kind of interesting. So I was doing 1 scoop of sun fiber with about 2 scoops of activated charcoal. And when I changed over to carnivore, I started noticing that my poops were getting a little harder. I wasn't pooping quite as often. I was still pooping at least once a day, but I wasn't pooping as often. They tended to be more kind of hard and pebbly. They weren't as soft. They weren't as sticky. The reason why that's important is because when you have poop that's kind of soft, particularly when it's sticky, when it sticks to the toilet paper or sticks to the toilet bowl. And yes, I know this is kind of gross, but we talk about poop all the time because it's actually important. But that's an indication that you've got lots of bile in your poop. So I doubled the amount of sun fiber that I was taking. I went from 1 scoop to 2 scoops. And my poops have gotten much, much better. The texture is better. They're softer. They're more sticky. So definitely getting more bile out. So I know that even though I'm not eating a lot of soluble fiber, I will occasionally have an apple. If I'm kind of craving something sweet, I'll have an apple. And I've been doing okay with that. It hasn't really, caused a cascade effect. I'm able to just be satisfied with that and continue doing what I'm doing. I'm also doing 5 grams or 1 scoop of the Nutrition Detective Zeolite. Haven't had any problems, so I haven't needed to go up on it, which is nice. But I'm also one of those sledgehammer people. You got to usually hit me with a sledgehammer for me to notice stuff. So that's my morning routine. In the evenings, I'm doing 1 Keystone Minerals. I had been doing 2, but on my latest hair test, both my selenium and molybdenum are in the normal range, so I'm backing off just to 1 Keystone Minerals. But I've also added some extra zinc. My blood zinc, I actually forgot to, I forgot and I took my zinc supplement the night before my blood work. So my blood zinc's a little higher than it should be, even though it's still a little bit below normal. My hair zinc is okay, but I decided I was going to maybe go back. And so I'm alternating between 60 milligrams and 90 milligrams. I've actually, over the last few days, just gone back to 60 milligrams a day. One of the reasons for that is the um, Dr. Smith's live stream about um, MSG. Sorry. About MSG, he'd mentioned that it seems to activate or potentiate the zinc a little bit better. So I decided I wasn't going to do 90 milligrams. I'm just going to stick with 60 milligrams until my next test, kind of see how that goes. I have been using MSG. Sometimes I forget, but pretty much anytime I'm making food, I make sure that I sprinkle some on top. I'm using probably somewhere between a quarter and a half a teaspoon a day. I will probably start working on increasing that, going up to a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons a day. I have noticed when I increase the amount of MSG that I use, I tend to notice more bile dumping symptoms. So it's definitely revving things up. But it really does help. It makes the food taste much better. And I haven't noticed a lot of carb cravings. So I think it's helping with that. So big minerals, I'm just doing 150 micrograms of selenium, 150 micrograms of molybdenum, and 90 milligrams, 60 to 90 milligrams of zinc. So, all right, let's go to my blood tests. So, I know Dr. Smith hates spreadsheets, but this one's helpful for me. I kind of like it. So, um, so these tests, both the blood test and the hair tests, were before I changed my diet to carnivore. So this is when I was eating crap and had been for a while. So um, keep that in mind. So my vitamin A, my retinol, went from 38.4 to 51.4. This is because I was still eating lots of vitamin A. So you can actually see increases if you increase the amount of vitamin A you're taking in. And that's how I interpret this increase. I'm still so I went up 13 points on my vitamin A. Now, of course, vitamin A is something we just watch. We don't pay attention to it, but in this case, this is a good indication of what I was doing in terms of diet, that I wasn't following the program, that I was eating more vitamin A. So it's reflected in the test. Now, my overall retinol has still come down a little over 24 points since my first test back in 2022, where it was 62.5. So I'm still, still doing okay with that. It's still coming down, but next time I expect this to drop a bit as well. If it doesn't, not a big deal. Copper, 85. So it's in the optimal range. We'd like it below 90. So that's good. Went down about 7 points from the previous test. So it was 93. Went down to 85, so that's good. My overall coppers dropped about 9 points. Like I mentioned, zinc. This is with taking a zinc supplement the night before I did my blood work. So I would expect this to be maybe 10 points, maybe even 15 points less than it is. So call it 88, which would be down about 20 points from my previous test. So that's something I would focus on. Now, overall, I'm still, my zinc's come up a little bit, but I'm not where I'd like to be in terms of that. Okay, ferritin, which those of you who know me know this has been an issue. My initial ferritin when I first started was 877. It's come down considerably since then. Was 308. It's now 329, so it actually did go up a little bit. I haven't been donating blood as often as I was, although I actually did just donate a couple of days ago. Just because I've been so busy, I haven't been able to do it. So I may continue to do that. Again, I expect on the next test, this will be down some. So, and with eating a bit better, I will, this will also continue to normalize. So, but overall, I'm still down 100 or 540 points. So, so way better than it was. Okay, testosterone. So these are obviously not standard tests, the testosterone and estradiol, but something I want to look. So last test, January 24 was 129. I'm now at 220, so I've gone up almost 100 points, 91 points. I expect this to continue to get better as I'm exercising more regularly and eating better. Overall, my testosterone's only gone up about 35 points. That's something I want to work on. Estradiol stayed pretty much the same. It's not that important for me. It's still kind of in what you would consider the normal range. And it's gone down slightly over time, but it's stayed about the same. So that's the blood work. Not a whole lot of takeaways from this, I would say. I consider this test, this May 23rd test, to be kind of a new baseline. So changes from here are going to be the ones that I'm going to pay a lot more attention to. All right, so the hair test. Calcium went from 62 to 68. Optimal range is somewhere between about 35 and 42. So it's above where I'd like to see it, but not bad. It did go up a little bit. So again, I'm not really concerned about having a calcium deficiency because I haven't really earned one. Magnesium dropped a bit, but again, the most important thing is that the magnesium bar is higher than the calcium bar. Significant ratios, the one we pay attention to is the calcium magnesium ratio. Not quite as good as it was last time, but it's it's still pretty much right at the top of the optimal range. So I'm good with that. Potassium and sodium don't really tell us all that much. I'm not having any potassium deficiency symptoms, so I think what I'm doing in terms of potassium is working. As you can see, copper jumped considerably, went from 1.5, which is kind of right at the top of the normal range, to 3.4. So a couple of possibilities here. The fact that my blood copper was still in the optimal range, kind of the higher end of the optimal range, but still kind of normal, is an indication that my copper probably is not quite this high. Although, with all the extra stuff I've been eating, it's possible it has jumped up a little bit. Now, the interesting thing is that I haven't noticed any calcium or any copper toxicity symptoms. Haven't really had any depression, haven't really had much in the way of anxiety, haven't had kind of any of those other things. So I'm not sure if this is my body dumping copper or if this is, um, the fact that I hadn't changed my shower filter in a while. So I was getting more copper from that. I'm not sure. So we'll see what the next test shows. That should give me a better indication of kind of exactly what's going on. But I'm doing the stuff that I need to do. Now, I will say one of the things that I'm doing to kind of keep me on track is that I am eating some nuts and seeds, sunflower seeds, some macadamia nuts, occasionally some almonds. Unfortunately, nuts and seeds tend to be high in copper. So, um, again, I haven't really noticed any symptoms, even though I have been kind of increasing my copper intake in that sense. So, I'd like to think that it's kind of balancing out. We'll see what the next hair test shows. Zinc did go up a little bit, went from 18 to 19. Obviously, we want the zinc bar higher than the copper bar. We'll see how it goes next time. Phosphorus is still good. Um, Iron's good. Manganese is good. Selenium is in the optimal range. We want it between 10 and 15. It's 10. So I went from 2 keystone minerals, so 300 micrograms of selenium a day, down to 150 because I just need to maintain it where it is. Boron we don't test for. Cobalt's good. Molybdenum is in the normal range. We want it between 4 and 8. Mine's a 5. So doing just 150 micrograms should be good to keep it where it is. And sulfur's good. Stayed basically the same. So for the toxic elements, uranium did go up a little bit. Again, this may be a shower filter issue. I've had kind of an elevated uranium since I started testing. It's just the water where I live. I have started using a shower filter, but I hadn't changed the filter in a while, so that may be part of it. We'll see how that goes. It's starting to creep up a little bit, and so I need to find some ways to try to get that down. Arsenic stayed about the same. Really haven't been eating as much rice. Beryllium's good. Mercury's good. Cadmium's good. Lead's good. Actually, aluminum came way down, went from 1.3 to 0.3. So that was good. Additional elements all look good. They're either on the white or in the lower grain, which is where we want to see them. So significant ratios, like I said, calcium magnesium ratios still looking good. So I'm where I want to be with that. I'm continuing to do topical magnesium at least 5 days a week. Try to do it every day, don't always, but toxic ratios are good. Additional ratios don't give us any information that we do anything with. So that's where I'm at. Again, the hair test and the blood test, I'm treating them in a lot of ways like a new baseline. So we'll see where things go from here. I'll do an update video when I do a next test. I may do 1 or 2 in between to keep people updated depending on how you respond to this. If you want me to do more, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and let me know if you want me to do some more videos. I'm trying to post at least once a month on X as well as on the Love Your Liver network. But for those of you who aren't Love Your Liver members and don't follow me on X, if you want me to do more videos and kind of go in more depth, I'd be happy to do that. So I know this one went really long. Sorry about that. I know they've been about 10 or 15 minutes, and this one's been a lot longer, but also a lot more to talk about. So thank you so much for sticking with this. Again, please comment down below. I promise I will respond. I'll read all the comments and get back to you. And see. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I got. Again, thank you very much for your time and attention. And, if you want to find me, it's at Nathan Weens 9, NATHANWIENS 9 on X. If otherwise, you can find me here at the channel. Send me a message if you have any questions, and gonna keep up with you. I want to keep you in the loop, and hopefully some of you will be willing to take this journey with me and follow me through these changes. So have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.